Hi, welcome to the continuation of my evals video series. In this video, I'll be installing the auditing and monitoring components for the Centrify Infrastructure Services, formerly called Centrify Server Suite, and might actually also here be called Direct Audit. I'll be installing that agent on the two Unix machines and two different methods, and I'm installing on a Windows machine as well. I'm assuming that you've already watched the previous videos, set up the back end. If you're going to install on a Unix machine, the Unix machine auditing agent requires the standard agent, the AD bridging and privilege management agent has to be installed first in order to install the auditing agent on top of that. If you're just doing the Windows, you could do the auditing agent by itself, and then you wouldn't have to have seen the rest of the videos. In this video, I'll be talking about the SQL requirements. You got to have an SQL somewhere. The direct audit or auditing piece is storing all this data in a SQL database, so you need SQL somewhere. You also need admin rights to install software on Windows machines and the Unix machines. We'll be installing and doing a basic set of the backend database and management components. And I'll show you a diagram in a second. What's that about? We're going to install two Linux agents in two different ways, one using the deployment manager and one using doing it manually. And we're going to do a manual install of the Windows auditing service. All right, so let's get started. For Centrify auditing, what used to be called direct audit, here's the main architecture for it. The idea is you put agents on computers, the agents send to a collector, and the collector send it into a database. So you can have more than one collector, and you can have more than one database. In this eval, everything starting from the collector over to the right, this part over, we're all going to be installed on one machine. So one machine is going to be my management database, one audit store, and one collector, and then I'm going to have an agent on a Windows and an agent on two different Linux machines, all pointing to that same collector. In the production world, you have collectors everywhere. You might even have a couple different management databases with different audit stores. But again, in this eval, we're going to install all the backend on one machine, one Windows machine. So you can use an SQL you already have. For an eval, it's really easier to let Centrify install an SQL. It'll open up the ports, install all the things. The Microsoft SQL might not turn on by default during its standard installation. So it's easier just to let Centrify do the installation during the eval. All you need is a Windows machine that has enough power. So let's get started. Again, little recap. I already have the back end here. If you're doing the Centrify Unix agent, the auditing part in the Unix agent, you got to already have the standard agent, and the standard agent would have been joined into zones, and all this is set up. And I'll be doing a Windows machine. On Windows, you can have the auditing separate from the privilege management, and you won't need to have any of this set up in the back end. Normally, people that are doing auditing are also doing the AD bridging and privilege management piece as well. Another thing, I'm assuming in this video, if you follow all the series, I'm assuming you've already installed the licensing service. One of the things you can look for the licensing service control panel. In the previous videos, I've already installed this, so I don't need to do the install now. One other thing, if you followed my videos, the last video, the Linux Advanced installation, I set up how to log in with no password. So we set this policy to allow logging in where you couldn't log in with a password, how to log in with a Kerberos ticket. Just one thing you need to realize, if you're using a same user who's doing DZ-do privileges to raise their privilege, and you set the password to reauth with a password, if you set this login no password, that means no passwords are allowed, then your reauth won't work. You got to set your reauth either to allow passwords, or reauth to not ask for passwords at all, or change this Unix logon assignment back to the regular logon right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually go back into I made this right here. Again, I don't know if you followed the previous videos where you need to do this. So my particular user, I don't need to do any re-authentication because I'm forcing him from the last video to log in without a password, but then I'm raising privilege. I was prompted for a password, and that won't work. So I'm just putting it back the way it was. Again, only if you follow the steps, step by step from the last video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear that up. Oh yeah, obviously that's still set. So see, that's the problem. It asks for a password, and I'm not allowed to use passwords. So now, there you go. Now it's okay. And again, I don't need to follow the other videos. I could have waited 20 minutes for this to happen. I just want it to happen right away. Now I'm not prompted for a password because I'm not allowed to log in password. So I'm already logged in here. Let me do some stuff. Let me get all ready. So what we're going to do is install the back end. If I go into software, you should have the download of the software. Again, I'm assuming you watch the other videos, is the main Windows package. You download it, extract it, and then there's going to be an auto run part here. I'm going to need license keys. It's going to prompt me. Let's get your license key ready. All right. And then I'm going to run the auto run right here. So that's it. And then I'm going to run the audit and monitor. We'll click on that. Again, the audit and monitor. Go through next, accept, next. I do not need a license service. Remember, I already showed you that's already running. This top part is all the GUIs, and then I'm installing the backend management server, which includes the audit database and the collector, all on the same machine. I want to launch the wizard. So creating a new installation. The installation name is just that. It's a name of an installation. You could have a prod and a dev. It's all going to the same database. We're just logically separating them. So you give each installation a name. Keep the default. It'll make it easier for the eval. So the default installation name is default installation. We want to capture video. So I'm keeping everything here the same, hitting next. Here's a license key. Hit paste, hit add, next. This is where I want to put this information. Again, in this in the previous videos, I've already set this up. I'm assuming you had a Centrify OU. If not, you need some kind of Centrify OU, and we need some kind of container to put the audit data in. So this by default is going to program data. I don't want to go there. I want to go to Centrify Audit. Store a bunch of things in Active Directory, and that's where I want to put it. So this is installing the SQL part. So we're going to go ahead and let SQL install. Under the software, when we went and got this, it actually contains, there's actually a Microsoft SQL 2012 Express. So this came with the package download. I'm going to go ahead and let Centrify install that. Keep all the defaults. Hit next. It found the location. Hit next. See, some of these questions are nice. It's going to open up that port. Yes. And this is actually going to take a few minutes. I can go down and close all this. And this might take 10 to 12 minutes while it installs SQL. Take a break, go get some coffee or soda. I'm going to pause the video. So the SQL will finally install, and then you'll see configuring direct audit, and then you should have all success here. Install the SQL Server, create a new installation, and we should all be good to go. All right. So now, I want to hit finish. So you notice a couple more shortcuts came up. If we go into the audit manager as we want, go into the audit manager. Maybe make this a little smaller so it's not so huge. And then we can expand on the left side. See that default installation? We kept that the same. Audited systems, we don't have any agents yet. If we go to collectors, hopefully you'll see one, the same machine I'm on. As member, that's running. Audit management servers, that's the same machine I'm on. Again, we installed everything on one machine. And you'll see an audit store. And there'll be a database. So the database should be online and everything looks good. Eventually this database might get big and you can always make a new one. You can always go in here under the database and add a second audit store. So some people do that manually, or we can script this out. But everything looks good here. One thing I want to show you and I suggest you do is the person that did the install right now, my test user was Diana Worth. They were put under the master auditor. We have these auditing roles and we can make new roles and we can decide what these roles are, Unix or Windows, or what the criteria. So by default there's already a master auditor role, and look one user's under there. And that might be okay, but what if that person's on vacation? I actually had a client install this. Someone went on vacation and they needed to make some changes, and the only person that could get in was this one user, and they were kind of out of luck. So a good thing to do is add a group, maybe. So I'm going to make a group. Maybe something to do is make a Centrify Audit Admin group. And then add all your users you want in there who are the Centrify admins, the master auditors. All right, so that way inside of here I can add an entire group or add a couple other users. Just make sure it's not one user because you could be out of luck. So that way anybody can get in here and make changes. All right. So a good thing to do so you don't forget, do it now. So I've installed, I'm all ready in the back end. So now what I can do is check, well, we can check one more time. We went in here, we showed you the collector was running, right? Another thing we can do is you can actually do a search, collector. You can bring up the control panel and you'll see it's running. Again, running on port 5063, that's the collector. So notice that port was open during the install. Agents send their data to the collector, so that's the port the collector is running on. So everything here is good. If you ever had to do troubleshooting, you can look at logs, change some options to put something in debug mode. But we're all good, the collector's running, so now what we can do is, let's install the agents. So what I'm going to use is the deployment manager. If you watch the other videos, we use this to install the Unix agents. It pushes out packages via SSH. And just to show you what I have, I'm going to show you my new CentOS machine. This is what I'm going to install on. And I've, again, previously, the auditing agent requires the first agent, the AD bridging and privilege management agent, which we used to call the standard agent. That's all I've installed. The direct control is also the name of it and has all these other components. And then I installed OpenSSH. But there's no Centrify DA, the direct auditing agent. And that's what we're going to install. So I'm bringing up the deployment manager. Again, maybe I don't need it so big. The whole screen. So I used this in the past already. Again, if you watch the other videos, we've already done this for new CentOS to push out the package. You might want to go in here and do a refresh. We don't have to analyze, but just refresh to make sure that this machine, you still have a good connection. This might take a minute or something. I'm going to pause it. So it only took a minute there. If you go into history, hopefully my refresh was a success and so was yours, so that way you know this machine is talking over there. I can communicate to that machine. I can log on with my agent or with my ID. So I'll be able to push out an agent package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to say manage software. I've already installed the direct control. The old name DC is the standard agent. We're now going to install the DA, the auditing agent. So it's already found all the packages because I've done this before. It says I'm going to install direct audit. I want to specify the installation name. Notice it found it because it looks through Active Directory and found that information. Let's go ahead and change that so it's a default installation. I do want auditing enabled. That's it, hit finish. Now again, it might take it a minute or so. Give it a few seconds to finish. Look on the left with the hourglasses, you'll see on the bottom what it's doing. So I'm going to give it a second. Pause the video. So eventually on the bottom you'll see updating information. So hopefully the install worked fine. Now it's just getting the latest information from that install. And it should be finished here in a second. Hopefully. There we go. So if I go down to history, again, add software was a success. You can actually click on there and do a trace and see everything that worked. But most importantly, I can go to the machine itself and do the same command, and now as you notice, I have the direct audit. So we went ahead and this installed our package for us. Installed and got it all running. There's a command, DA info, and this you want to make sure it says online. So everything looks good. Look at its collector. It's connected to its collector. It's sending data over. All good. There's also another command, DA control, that you need to be run as root, but you can see I can turn on, turn off the agent. There's some things I can do, enable, disable, and configure the agent itself or install it. So DA control and DA info. Again, good commands to know. Oh, not DZ, DA info. All right, so this is all good. So if I log on to New CentOS, the machine I just did, right, and then I do anything like that, if I do a bunch of different things, maybe even via a file, so everything I'm doing now is being recorded. Now if I go back into the Audit Manager, I already got it running down below, let's see. Audit Manager, if I go up to Audited Systems and do a refresh, hopefully I have an agent. There you go. So I got an agent connected in, the New CentOS. And if I go into the Audit Analyzer, this is another one on here. This is where I can actually query and look at data. So under Audit Sessions, see all kinds of different pre-made queries on the left. I can look at sessions for today, and you'll see there it is. That was during the deployment. As soon as the agent got set up, we started recording, and this is where I just logged in as. I can right-click and say Index Command List, and I see everything that was ran. At any point, I can right-click and say Replay. So this is that last session we just did. Down at the bottom, I can fast-forward, pause, rewind, all kinds. It's like a DVR here, so I can grab it, bring it back. I can fast-forward to just a particular part, and then hit play. Go into a VI. I'm watching the VI session from yesterday or 5 years ago. Doesn't really matter. So all this data, this metadata on the left, is available for categorizing and searching on. I have the date up here. I can do a bunch of export the text, or I can actually export the entire video. I can also copy this URI if I need to get to it from somewhere else. Universal Resource Indicator. So on the left side are some pre-made filters and queries. Notice one of them is Unix privilege commands. If I right-click and go into properties, any session or anybody ran sudo or dz-do, they would show up, ever. Or I could, make one that was only for this past month or something, but this is ever, and now you'll notice there's those ones that we just did. So again, I'm capturing data, it's coming back in here. This isn't the sexy dashboard like a Splunk or an ArcSight. Centrify can still feed into that, but this is the Centrify video camera that's recording all this session, kind of like you had a video camera over top of someone's shoulder, we're recording all the user sessions. All right, so now we've done on one machine, let's do it manually. So we pushed it out with the Deployment Manager, and now with I want to do it manually. So I already have this package on here. I have it under another file. So there's actually the Centrify Direct Audit Agent. So all I really got to do is install it. So you got to have root or somebody with DZ-do privileges that can install it. But I want to go ahead and install that package, and that's all it is. So RPM-I, and then wherever that package is. That's all it takes to install. Just do the I. So we're installing it, and then it should configure it. Notice I don't have to set the default installation or anything that it's finding it. There's only one installation name right now. Part of that DA control script, if there was two different installations, we could run DA control and change it to a different installation name. So all good. Now if I type DA info, DA info, I keep typing the wrong one, DA info. There you go, online, connected to a collector. And now that package installed just fine. And again, there's another command, DA control, if I need to reinstall, set the installation, maybe I want to change some of the options. And again, I'm now logging everything. So everything I'm doing now being installed, I'm being recorded. And again, if you go back to the manager, hopefully refresh, I have a second system there. And if I go back to the analyzer and I go to today and refresh, I should have a second session coming up. So there you go. I've now installed the auditing agent on 2 Unix machines, one with Deployment Manager and one with manually. So now I want to install the Windows agent. So I'm on virtual machines here. Let me pause the video as I get the other Windows machine up and pause some of my Unix machines. Sometimes it slows down if I run them all at the same time. So now I have my Windows machine. I'm all logged on as my test user, which is a local admin or has admin rights. I already have, on this particular machine, I've already installed the privilege elevation agent, or the module of the Centrify Windows agent. I've already installed the privilege elevation service. And we did this in the other video. What I want to do is I now want to install another service. So where that's located, we go to C, Program Files, Centrify Agent for Windows. You'll see I want a centrify.winagent.serviceconfig. So if I double click on that, you should recognize this if you've installed the other agent before. This is how I did add service, and I had this privilege elevation. And I hit add service now, I have the option. If I had done this first and I didn't already install direct auditing backend, this option would not show up. It might be a little confusing for you. So make sure you have everything, all the backend set up, which I've just done earlier in this video, before you can install this, or else if you don't have auditing set up in the backend, it won't allow this Windows agent to install the auditing and monitoring service. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click OK. It found the installations, all the available installations in AD. We're going to use the one default installation. Hit next. And that's it. It's done. It installed. Now, it did it with some default. So what I want to do is I want to change some of the defaults. So if you look in the same directory, there's an agent.configure. So if I go ahead and bring that up, this is the auditing agent. And you'll notice, hopefully it's all good. See, there it is, collector. It connected to the collector, and I'm all good. I'm now recording information. But I'm recording it at 8-bit. So that's going to keep your data small, but your graphics not as clear. So it all depends on how big your database, you don't mind it growing. I like to change this to the highest. So I can configure this and change this to a higher. 16-bit's not bad. 32-bit is much more clearer. So that way the video recording is at a higher level. We're still recording it. You're still going to get metadata about launch this, launch that, but how clear is that video recording? I like 32-bit. This is the spool location. Where are you going to put the spool? If the agent can't connect to find the collector, maybe the collector's down or maybe this agent's offline, it's going to still write data locally. So where am I putting it? Here's a directory I'm putting it. But do you want to run forever and ever and ever? No. So here's a maximum size that offline data can grow. No more than 10% of the total disk space. So you don't want to crash the machine by logging auditing data for weeks and weeks. So I keep all these settings. Anything I wanted to change was the bit. Again, found the installation. I'm going to keep that. And next, hit finish. So now I'm recording everything. I'm at 32-bit. I'm all good to go. And again, if I close all this, go back to where I installed my manager on here. If I hit refresh, there's my Win10. That is now in there. And if I go to my audit analyzer and I hit refresh, hopefully I have Win10. There it is. Or maybe I want time coming up. Something like that. But there's my Windows 10. I can look at the command list. Again, everything I launched. Now that doesn't matter. That doesn't change based on the bit, but how clear that graphics was the bit. Notice when I hit replay. It's a little grainy because this was 8-bit, not till the end or to future sessions where this get up to 32-bit. So you can see about that granularity. All right, and that's it. So now I installed the agent on Unix and 2 Linux machines, one with Deployment Manager and one manually, and then I installed on the Windows machine. I got a log coming in to my Audit Manager. Again, the main diagram here, I installed all the collector and audit store and the management database all on one machine, all on this machine right here. Have my database, all my collectors, and I got my agents all coming in. I'm all good to go. And don't forget about the master auditor, putting some additional users or maybe even better an AD group inside there. That's it. That's all I want to show you in this video. Thank you very much.